The last thing I remember before the floor came up to meet me was the sound of my own name. Arthur Mitchell. 3,000 people. A packed gymnasium that smelled like folding chairs, cheap cologne, and decades of ambition baked into institutional carpet. The dean's voice was warm, practiced, the kind of voice that had announced 1,000 names before mine and would announce 1,000 more after. I heard it like it was coming from underwater. I had been standing in that line for 40 minutes. Dress shoes I'd bought secondhand from a Goodwill on Route 9. Gown that didn't quite fit across the shoulders because I'd lost 11 pounds in the last 2 months. Not from discipline, but from hunger dressed up as discipline. My chest had been doing that thing again. That tight, squeezing thing, like a fist wrapped around my sternum and slowly closing. I told myself, just get to the stage. Just get to the stage and everything else can fall apart later. I made it to the bottom of the stairs. Then my legs decided they were done. I don't remember hitting the microphone stand. Someone told me later I took it clean off the base. I don't remember the gasps from the crowd, or the dean stepping back, or the 2 faculty members who ran toward me. I don't remember any of it. What I do remember is waking up. White ceiling. The particular blue-white of fluorescent lights that exist only in hospitals and interrogation rooms. A steady, mechanical beeping that I would come to hate with every fiber of my being over the next 72 hours. The smell of antiseptic and something faintly metallic. Cold air on my forearms where my sleeves had been rolled back for an 4-line. And a hand. Small. Dry. Papery the way old hands get when the skin has had 81 years to grow thin. Holding mine with a grip that was surprisingly firm for someone who weighed less than 110 pounds. I turned my head. Grandma Martha was sitting in the chair beside my bed, wearing her good navy cardigan, the one she saved for church and doctor's appointments, with a manila envelope on her lap. She hadn't been to sleep. I could tell by the shadows under her eyes and the way she sat completely still, the way people sit still when they've been sitting still for a very long time and have made peace with it. She looked at me and said quietly, "There he is." That was all. I tried to speak. My throat felt like dry gravel. I managed, "What happened?" "Your heart decided it had been working without adequate support for long enough," she said. "The doctors have a more technical name for it. But that's what happened." I closed my eyes, opened them again. The ceiling was still there. The beeping was still there. How long? 3 days. 3 days. I let that sit for a moment. "Mom and Dad are not here." Her voice didn't change. No apology in it, no softening. Just the flat, clean truth of it, delivered the way she'd always delivered hard things. Like a woman who had lived long enough to know that coating the truth in sugar didn't make it less true. I stared at the ceiling. The nurse came in about 10 minutes later. Young woman, maybe 25, clipboard in hand, the practiced efficiency of someone who had done this 100 times. She explained what the doctors had found. An arrhythmia that had been building for months, stress compounded, exacerbated by exhaustion and, she paused, reading from the chart, inadequate nutrition and a documented lapse in cardiac medication. She told me the hospital had placed 45 calls to my listed emergency contacts over the first 3 hours after I was admitted. 45. Every call went to voicemail, she said. She moved on to discharge paperwork details. Professional. Kind. Not her fault. I lay there and said nothing. Outside the window, the October sky was the color of old pewter. Somewhere across town, my graduation ceremony had finished without me. Somewhere considerably farther, about 2,000 miles farther, give or take, my family had not picked up the phone. Grandma Martha squeezed my hand once. She didn't say anything. She didn't need to. "Let me take you back 5 weeks because you need to understand what I was running on. Not money, not support, not anything that most people would recognize as a foundation. I want to be clear about something before I go further. I am not telling you this to ask for sympathy. I've never been good at that, and I'm not starting now. I'm telling you this because the facts matter. The facts are what make everything that came later make sense." I was working 3 jobs. The first was construction labor. Day shifts, 5 days a week, starting at 6:15 in the morning. Mixing concrete, hauling drywall, doing whatever the foreman pointed at. It paid $17.50 an hour, which sounds reasonable until you factor in the steel-toed boots I'd bought on credit, the gas to get there, and the fact that my body was trying to run an engineering degree at the same time. The second job was at a building supply store out on the highway evenings, 3 nights a week. Helping contractors load lumber, answering questions about fasteners and adhesives, keeping the yard organized. Another $12 an hour. The manager was a decent man named Dale who never asked me why I looked so tired, which I appreciated more than he knew. The third job was overnight security. Weekends. Sitting in a booth outside a pharmaceutical warehouse from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m., watching a mostly empty parking lot while trying to study. I kept a thermos of black coffee and a legal pad full of structural load calculations on the counter beside me. I was sleeping, on average, 4 hours a night. I was eating, on average, and I mean this literally, 1 real meal per day. Grocery outlet bread that was 2 days from the markdown date. Instant ramen, the 25-cent kind. On good weeks, a rotisserie chicken from the discount rack at closing time. I kept a running list in my phone of which stores marked down their bakery items on which days. I knew that the Kroger on Jefferson marked down their day-old bagels every Tuesday at 5 p.m. I knew the Walmart on Route 12 cut their deli meat prices on Thursday evenings. I knew these things the way men know things they've had to learn out of necessity rather than curiosity. I was 5 weeks from graduation, from a Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering, with a 3.87 GPA, graduating first in my department. I had already passed 2 of my professional licensure exams. I had a job offer from a mid-size infrastructure firm in Denver waiting on my signature. I just needed to get across the finish line. Then my laptop died. Not dramatically. No spark, no smoke. It just stopped working one afternoon in the campus library. The motherboard, the repair tech told me. He quoted me $450 to fix it. Not for a new laptop, to fix the one I had. $450. I had $312 in my checking account. I had $2,500 in a savings account that my mother had helped me open when I was 16, back when she still occasionally played the role of a parent who cared about practical things. The account was joint, because I'd been 16 and hadn't thought about what that meant. I called my father, Richard Mitchell, commercial real estate developer, a man who had, as recently as that summer, written a $95,000 check toward my brother Julian's wedding without blinking. A man who drove a vehicle that cost more than most people's annual salary. A man who had, when I was 12, told me that a Mitchell never asks for help because Mitchells are the ones other people ask. He answered on the third ring. Arthur. Not a greeting. A data point. Dad, I need to borrow $450. My laptop died and I need it to finish my capstone drawings. I'll pay you back the first month after I start working. The budget's tight right now, Arthur. Same tone he used in business meetings. Flat. Final. You know things are stretched with the wedding coming up. You need to learn to manage your own finances. I stood in the parking lot of the library and listened to those words. Then I heard the front door of the house open behind him. Through the phone. And I heard Julian's voice. Dad, check this out. Just picked it up. The sound of something being set on the counter. My father's tone changed entirely, the way a man's voice changes when he turns toward someone he actually wants to talk to. What is that? Chronograph. Designer piece. Had it custom matched to the suit. The tailor said the dial color was, how much? $1,400. Worth every dollar though, right? A pause. The small, familiar sound of a card being slid across a counter. Absolutely, my father said. Good eye. I stood in that parking lot for a long moment. The air smelled like exhaust and cut grass. A truck went by on the road behind me, radio playing something country, fading out as it passed. I hung up without saying goodbye. I sold my truck 4 days later. A 2004 F-150 with 190,000 miles on it, that I'd bought for $2,800 3 years ago and kept running through YouTube tutorials and Sunday afternoons. I got $1,600 for it. I paid $450 to fix the laptop, bought 3 months of transit passes, and put the rest toward tuition and rent. My father bought a $1,400 watch for my brother the same afternoon. He told me he couldn't lend me $450. I want you to remember that number. $1,400. Comes back later. For weeks before graduation, I put 3 tickets on the dining room table. VIP seating. Commencement ceremony. Mitchell University Fieldhouse. I'd gone to the registrar's office myself to request them, which required filling out a form and waiting 2 weeks. I had pressed them into a white envelope with the ceremony date written on the outside in my own handwriting. I told myself on the walk home from the registrar's office that I was not doing this to ask for anything. I was doing it because it was a significant thing, and significant things deserve to be acknowledged. I had graduated first in my department. I had done it while working 3 jobs and eating discount bread. If that wasn't worth a folding chair in a gymnasium, I didn't know what was. My mother was in the kitchen when I set the envelope down. She looked at it the way she looked at most things